Welcome in, Cowboys Nation, to the first training camp live of the 2023 training camp here in Oxnard, California. We are back to practice, and it feels good to see some action alongside Nick Harris. I'm Kyle Youmans. Let's not waste any time because we have some 7-on-7 going on at the moment. Dak Prescott threw into some of his receivers for the first time this year. He's going to try that one over the top to Jake Ferguson. Good coverage from Jaron Kearse. But what do you expect to see out of this passing game? Of course, new play caller in Mike McCarthy. Lots of changes up front, but it seems like there's a lot of excitement around the air game.
Honestly, there's not as many changes in quantity, but I would say there's a lot of changes in quality because you have Mike McCarthy coming in as the play caller, and you also have a solidified wide receiver, too, who's been in the league now going into his 10th season, and Brandon Cooks. If you look at the top three receivers, number one, you have CeeDee Lamb, 2, Brandon Cooks, 3, Michael Gallup. All of these guys are guys that can line up inside, line up outside, and allow your offense to really open up and do a lot of different things. I think it's going to be really fun for Dak Prescott and really fun for Mike McCarthy.
You just saw Jalen Tolbert there underneath making a reception. He seems to have a new feel with this offense. He feels confident. He's got a bit of a role. Let's talk about Jalen Tolbert here as we continue on. That one batted up in the air. Simi Fehoko could not hold on. Just as we were talking about Jalen Tolbert, Eric Scott comes up with the first interception of 7-on-7. The rookie gets the pick, and also, not to mention, we just saw Tolbert make a grab. Fehoko drops one. That's a battle we've been waiting to see.
That's definitely a head-to-head battle that we're going to be seeing this month in Oxnard. Jalen Tolbert versus Simi Fehoko. Who claims that wide receiver 4 spot? And that's a little bit of an early tell, but obviously it's early. But looking at Jalen Tolbert, hey, this offseason, he really focused on getting chemistry with Dak and getting better mentally, and he feels so much better going into season 2. You know, I think he's going to be a really big shocker for a lot of fans here in training camp. I think he's going to make a lot of big-time plays. And then looking at Eric Scott, 6th-round pick. They traded up to go get him. They really like his traits and what he can bring to that defense. We'll see what kind of impact he can make in year 1.
He's going to go outside and cover here against, looks like Durden on the outside. So we'll have a little Eric Scott action off and to the left there as he'll come up and would have been in the position to make a tackle there on Dontario Drummond. But you really look at this youth overall. I mean, Eric Scott's a big part of that as a rookie that they traded up to go get. Do you expect him to maybe come in and make an impact? He batted that football the way there.
Absolutely. That was great coverage right there. Absolutely. Like I said, they traded up to go get him. Will McClay in this front office, they really like the traits that he was able to bring from Southern Mississippi. They saw him during the evaluation period, during pre-draft, and, his cover skills. That's going to be what, helps him get on the field as early as possible. Might need to improve in the run game. He saw a couple of lapses last season as a senior at Southern Miss in that area, but his coverage skills, they're NFL ready, and we can definitely see that here early on.
So they're going to throw his direction again, and that one bobbled. I don't see an official referee call, but it looks like a catch there on the sideline. Jalen Brooks, another rookie draft pick, coming out and making a play.
Absolutely. 6th round versus 7th round right there. Jalen Brooks.
That one he had to lay out on, and now you see Eric Scott maybe a little out of position as they go underneath to Sean McEwen in the flats. Let's take a look in the middle of this defense. Number 33, Damon Clark. We saw him toward the back half of last year, really established a role in the linebacker room. How do you expect him to take a jump into year number 2?
Yes, this is his moment. There's an open linebacker spot. Damon Clark, Jabril Cox, DeMarvion Overshone, all of those guys have become really close-knit since Overshone has entered the picture. But they all say that they are ready to compete and make that room better. DeMarvion Overshone told it to me best. He said he wants the coaches to question who the guy is every day. And he said it didn't even have to necessarily be him. He just wants that competition level to be there each and every day. And we could see that early on. Damon Clark, he has the traits. He's been here a year. He knows the system. He's a guy that Dan Quinn really likes. I'm excited to see what he can bring this month.
Cooper Rush has to throw that one away. Not a ton of pressure coming. Of course, this is 7-on-7. You've got the back 7 versus the 7 skills positions for the Cowboys and Cowboys offense, that is. Of course, it is Cowboys v. Cowboys here on day 1. But I think overall you're going to see some of the skills positions, some of these young guys really step up. You're not going to see a ton of veteran work here. Maybe Dak trying to throw to some of those guys we saw last year with Dennis Houston. And now you got Cooper Rush getting some valuable reps. This might be some of the offense that you'll see when the preseason rolls around here in a couple weeks. weeks.
Absolutely. If you are a big preseason fan like myself, then these are the reps that you're going to be honing in on, because about that second half of the second quarter is when you're going to be seeing these guys on the field. But also there's some key things to look for on this field right now. You got Ronald Jones lining up opposite of Cooper Rush. That running back 2 conversation, we've talked about it a lot in recent weeks. What will that look like? Mike McCarthy has said many times it's not about replacing Zeke. It's more so about finding that complementary guy to Tony Pollard. And I think there's going to be a lot that goes into that process, but you have 4 to 5 guys that are vying for that position. That's going to be a fun one. And looking on the defensive side, as we mentioned earlier, DeMarvion Overshown lining up out here at corner. He can do a lot of different things for this defense, playing on all 3 levels. And, this is something that they're going to play with here in training camp and see what works with him.
I like that from Overshown on the outside. Good ball from Cooper Rush to get it to Simi Fehoko. But you're right, Overshown was all the way out wide covering Ronald Jones, who was split out wide as well. So you got a couple things here and there to kind of look at. Let's talk about the quarterback position. Make things easy on our camera operator, Alex Lilly. Let's talk about Will Grier and Cooper Rush, because that will certainly be a battle. That quarterback 2 spot, at least at the moment, it belongs to Cooper Rush, as it should.
Absolutely. Being
what he did last year, coming in the absence of Dak Prescott, winning those games early in the season. But Mike McCarthy's been very vocal about how impressed he's been with Will Grier. How can Cooper Rush hold on to that spot?
Just stay consistent. He did a lot of things last season, not trying to do too much. Hey, there's a touchdown grab.
Got one in the back of the end zone. Very nicely done. And that was a pretty ball as well from Cooper Rush. Didn't really take a whole lot of time to prove you right there and trying to stay consistent.
Absolutely, just doing the little things, not trying to do too much. I think the biggest difference between Cooper Rush and Will Grier is that Cooper Rush, he's going to stay in that short to medium game, and Will Grier, he's going to try to get the home run ball.
So after a little 7-on-7 action, now we get the full thing. We got a little 11-on-11. This is the first-team offense versus the first-team defense. You have Dak Prescott behind center. He just handed that ball off. And a quick scatter there for that's Malik Davis, who a lot of people might think would be that number 2 option behind Tony Pollard.
Yeah, absolutely, just because of what he was able to do when he got his opportunities last year. What jumps into my brain is the game against Detroit, when he had those reps and he came in and did what he had to do. He's got scurry, he's got a little bit of burst, but he can also hold his own in the receiving game as well. So excited to see what he can bring to this RB2 competition.
Of course, without a whole lot of pads on early on in this training camp, you're going to see just contact, but there you see a couple guys getting on the ground. That's Chauncey Golston that got tripped up, and then Malik Davis went over the top. Let's look to the left here, if we could maybe pan over to Stephon Gilmore for the first time in a Cowboys uniform at training camp. It's good to see a veteran like him in the fold. He's probably not going to do a whole lot here, especially since they're running the ball so much. But, man, having Stephon Gilmore as a part of this secondary is a huge plus for the Cowboys.
It's like adding that extra, or the last infinity stone to the hand of Dan Quinn's defense. Being able to bring in a former NFL Defensive Player of the Year, a guy with so much knowledge and experience, veteran leadership like Stephon Gilmore. He's already been able to uplift the defensive back room. And, before the season starts, that'll trickle down to the entire defense and just his leadership and what he's able to bring from a knowledge perspective. It's huge to have that in the room.
Second team offense now versus second team defense. Cooper Rush going far side. There's Simi Fehoko. A little redemption from what we saw early on. Made a grab in traffic that time and then turned upfield. And Fehoko, there's pressure on him to try and secure that wide receiver 4 spot if he's really going to have a foregone spot in this offense.
Absolutely. If Jalen Tolbert wins this position, it looks a little bit different than Simi Fehoko winning this position. Just because if Jalen Tolbert wins it, Simi Fehoko, he's probably looking around. This was his moment. But if Simi wins it, Jalen probably still has another couple of opportunities just because this is year 2. He's still learning the system. This is definitely the moment for Simi Fehoko. This month is probably the biggest he's had in his football career.
Neville Gallimore nearly got in there to break away the pass on the dump off to Rico Dowdle. There was a bit of a retreat there from Cooper Rush just to get that ball out because Neville Gallimore got in there. He's also got some pressure on him as well to step up, especially with the draft pick and Mozzie Smith coming into the fold.
Absolutely. That leads right into what I was going to say. Drafting Mozzie Smith and having him right there in the middle of that defense, that he was drafted to provide immediate help in the interior of that defensive line. So guys like Neville Gallimore and Quentin Bohanna, this is a very important training camp just to show their worth on this team.
Cooper Rush over the middle. And he finds Dennis Houston. Tell me if you've heard that at training camp before. Dennis Houston, he had a ton of separation there. That was not just a bad coverage. That was Dennis Houston putting a move at the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely, the Oxnard hero after last season when he had a fantastic training camp here on the West Coast. Looking to get it back here and run it back here in California for year 2.
We'll watch a couple more plays here, give you a little extra look and some 11 on 11 in practice number 1 here in Training Camp Live, presented by American Airlines. Again, it's Cooper Rush and the second team offense scattered with that second team defense, and a handoff behind the line of scrimmage. There's Ronald Jones, the second, former Super Bowl champion, 2-time Super Bowl champion coming in. And then we've got some hurry up here. Let's get back to the line of scrimmage. Rush under center again. A little play action on the rollout, and he dumps it off underneath. There's a wide open look to John Stevens, who Linda Wells was telling me earlier in the week that that's somebody you want to keep an eye on. Absolutely.
Out of Louisiana Lafayette, he lined up in a lot of split-out wide sets for the Raging Cajuns, but brought into here as a possible tight end option given his size. 6'6", roughly about 230 pounds. Might need to put on a little bit more weight, but boy, does he have that athleticism and does he have that downfield ability. You know, being able to stretch the seam as a tight end, I think that's something that he'll have an advantage doing over the other guys in the room.
All right, one's back in there. Dak Prescott looking long. Instead, he dumps it off to Sean McEwen on the far sideline. And McEwen will go up the sideline. And he was guarded by Damon Clark. There's Rowdy just walking by and getting a nice little photo bomb in as he'll check in with the fans, try and make them get a little rowdy. You see what I did there?
I see it. Speaking of rowdy, Stephon Gilmore got a little rowdy on that last play. Dak's first read, he was looking this way, trying to find Brandon Cooks. Gilmore had that locked down. Wasn't happening on this right side.
All right, let's see what happens here with Dak Prescott in the shotgun this time. He wants to unload it again. That one underneath. There's Jalen Tolbert. He's been active in this first practice of the summer.
Absolutely, and that's what you got to do. You have to be able to stack these good days and remain consistent. That's going to be the biggest point of emphasis for Jalen Tolbert, not only during the preseason, but the entire season.
All right, one more play, and just so we know, we can take a look at the starting offense here. You got Terrence Steele back in the fold. Great to see him as he has been cleared to play. You've got Tyler Smith at left guard, Tyron Smith at left tackle, as Dak will go under center.
It's just so great to see Steele out there.
Hand it off underneath. There is Malik Davis. One more time, and that'll do it for our look at Training Camp Live. Today, Nick Harris, great job on your inaugural Training Camp Live presented by American Airlines. We've also got the Greater Ventura Boys and Girls Club here. Wanted to give them a nice little shout out as they are taking in some training camp here on day number 1. That's part of the fun here in training camp and in Oxnard, is getting to see Cowboys Nation back out in full force.
Absolutely. All these fans coming out, it just gives you the itch for football, even as it grows closer as August approaches.
And if you can't make it out to Oxnard, be sure to tune in. Training Camp Live, every single practice session will get you covered on what you need to see for the Cowboys moving into the 2023 season. For Nick Harris, for Alex Lilly behind the camera, I'm Kyle Youmans saying so long. We'll see you next time on Training Camp Live.